Hey guys, it's Eric and welcome back to the South LA recap where we're exploring South Los Angeles inside and out. So this is part 2 of our video, which is South LA or South Central. So in part 1 of this video, I asked several groups of people about what they call this region, South LA or South Central. And now in part 2 of the video, we're going to dive into some brief history on how this region actually developed. So to really understand this question, we got to dive deep into a map. Okay, maybe not that deep. So this is South Central, or South Los Angeles, South Central Los Angeles. This region doesn't have clean boundaries at all. In a very poor simplification, the modern region is bounded by the 10 freeway to the north, La Cienega and Crenshaw Boulevards to the west, 120th Streets to the south, and Central Avenue to the east, with at least a dozen exceptions to this. I'll link a much more accurate depiction of the South Los Angeles boundaries in the description below. So let's take a look at the very first neighborhood in this region, historic South Central. Bounded by Washington Boulevard, Flower Street, and Vernon Avenue, historic South Central ran along Central Avenue to the east. Central Avenue holds an incredible history as a main thoroughfare in Los Angeles that at one point ran across the middle of early Los Angeles. South of Washington Boulevard, Central Avenue was home to many black businesses and residences, had a booming streetcar line, and quartered the black jazz hub of Los Angeles between the 20s and 40s. Especially at the Dunbar Hotel, which is actually still there today. Just north of Washington Avenue, Central Avenue cuts through the Fashion District and ends in Little Tokyo, Los Angeles' oldest Japanese neighborhood. So the surrounding area quickly adopted the name South Central, a black, working-class neighborhood that ran next to the south part of Central Avenue. Nearly 70% of the black Los Angeles population lived in South Central up until the midpoint of the century, and it was severely overcrowded. Many other black residents lived in Watts and a few other pockets around the city. But don't think that all blacks and other minorities lived here by choice. They lived here because of the law. As Los Angeles began to boom in the late 1800s, lawmakers across this region created housing covenants, real legislation that prevented minorities, specifically including Asians, Mexicans, and blacks, from buying homes in certain, well, let's just be frank, more desirable areas. In fact, realtors were bounded by the covenant, and the Federal Housing Administration, you know those great FHA loans that you get, even denied loans in areas that were not covered by covenants. Environmental scientist Dorcetta E. Taylor found that up to 80% of Los Angeles was off limits to minorities. The PBS documentary City Rising covers housing covenants. It's free to watch and linked in the description below. In 1948, the United States Supreme Court case Shelley versus Kramer made housing racial discrimination covenants unconstitutional. That's nearly 70 years after the city was developing. Well, so much for getting in while home prices were cheap, right? Anyway, for Los Angeles, this meant minorities could no longer be confined to South Central or Watts. This was later reinforced with the American Civil Rights Act of 1964. Once the housing covenants were dismantled, many working-class and affluent black residents diffused the bounds of historic South Central. More affluent populations settled west near Crenshaw, including Baldwin Hills and Leimert Park. Working-class minorities went south past Slauson Avenue, which was a major racial divide at the time. Of course, there was so much more that has happened in this region, but we're focusing on these bare-bones facts to see how this region developed and how South Central Los Angeles got its name. Next episode, we're going to be tracking the usage of the word South LA and South Central over the 20th and 21st century. Thank you guys for watching this video. Please leave your thoughts and comments below. And if you're really learning something about South LA, like and subscribe to this page. See you next time.